The United States is open for business. That was the message to several local manufacturers today. A roundtable meeting was held with members of the Canadian manufacturers and exporters and the US Consul General.
More than a dozen local manufacturing companies met with the US Consul General and Washington, D.C.'s representative from the Canadian manufacturers and exporters. The aim was to identify opportunities for local companies hoping to forge into US markets.
It was a fascinating conversation, not about just the policy issues on the bilateral relationship and the bilateral front, but also hearing from companies that are extremely innovative and are really looking over their horizon of what opportunities and new product lines there are.
Northern BC's primary export into U.S. markets for years has been softwood lumber. When the U.S. housing market collapsed, local forestry companies cast their gaze to Asia-Pacific markets. Other manufacturers have followed suit. Premier Christy Clark recently announced another trade mission to China, Korea and Japan in November. That is the motivation behind this delegation's visit.
Basically, to reiterate the message that the U.S. is open for business. Canada and the U.S. do make up the largest trading relationship in the world, and yet we can't take each other for granted, and we need to work on it. And I think the initiative, the Beyond the Border initiative that Prime Minister Harper and President Obama put together is doing just that.
Initiative's Prince George was part of the meeting. CEO Heather Oland says there were a lot of questions answered, as was the reinforcement of Canada-U.S. relations.
$1 million a minute in trade crosses the U.S.-Canada border, that we have a very good relationship and a long, not only business relationship, but friendship. We share so many cultural similarities, and the business between the United States and Canada is very important.
According to BC Stats, exports to the U.S. have increased by just over 14%, but companies are still facing challenges with some regulations, especially at points of entry.
What we have heard throughout the week at every one of our sessions is the problem of cross-border business travel. And we are addressing it under the Border Action Plan, but I will tell you, and I agree, that it is an issue that we hear about all the time. But if one speaks about over-regulation, China is it.
Bridget Matheson says unlike China's regulatory regime, the U.S. regulations are transparent. Cheryl Jan, CKPG News.